What's going on, guys? Today I had it planned to take the bike out to 74, put it on the track, and do a little bit of test and tuning and kind of fill you guys in on how the rebuild has turned out with the few changes I made. But unfortunately the track got rained out last night, so I came over here to Croom, Florida, and we're just going to do a little bit of testing and tuning out here, and I'll take you for a ride on the GoPro. Here we go. If you didn't follow my full motor rebuild that I just did last week, a 4-part series on full rebuild where I did the bottom end, put a new crank in it, piston, and freshen up the transmission. A couple things that I did while I was doing that. Well, let me start with first, before I did that, the mods that I had on this bike was only the Pro Circuit Works pipe and the Shorty silencer, and the head. I modified it myself with the squish band clearance down to 40 thousandths and the compression near stock of the 5 UP head, which was the 2003 to 2010 US model head. It's a higher compression head than the newer head that's coming on the 2011 to current. But anyway, same compression ratio as that, but the squish band clearance down to 40 thousandths. During the motor rebuild, what I did was I polished the exhaust port. I didn't change the shape or profile of the exhaust port any at all. I just removed the casting flaws and kind of polished it up. If you go down in the description, I'll have a link to the full motor rebuild if you haven't already caught that. But I also added the V-Force 3 reeds, and the interesting thing with the V-Force 3 reeds is the stock reeds, the what do you call it, the reed stops like majorly partially block the boost port, and the V-Force reeds, they do not. So yeah, so the two mods I added was the ported exhaust port, or polished exhaust port I should say, and the V-Force reeds. Now I came out here last Saturday and I did some jetting tuning. I didn't jet the main jet. The main jet felt good, so I left that where it was at for the time being. But I did go ahead and play with the pilot, and I found that the 52 worked best for this setup. I've been running the 52 pilot for quite a while actually in Florida, even with the previous setup I had before I did the motor rebuild. And the reason being is because I'm running 3 ounces of race fuel, 110 leaded race fuel with 3 gallons of race fuel with 2 gallons of pump. That's the mixture I'm running right now. And with the 50 pilot, sometimes I can hear when you just ever so slightly crack the throttle open, I can hear what sounds like rocks hit the front fender or whatever, and that's pinging. But you throw the 52 in it, and that just goes away. So bike still runs good, but it goes away. So I tried the 50 again, and yeah, I heard a rock hit the front fender here or there. So I went back up to 52, I have the fuel screw set at about 1 turn. The air screw, I mean, is set at about 1 turn. And I have the stock needle in it right now in the stock position, but I did try the needle that came on the 2006 model, which is a, not sure if you can see it, it is a N3EJ. This is the needle that came in stock on them in 2006 if you're interested in trying one of these. It is basically the same as the stock needle on all the other modern day YZ250 strokes. The only difference is it is a half a clip leaner, and a 1 clip change is huge on this bike. So it's nice to have this needle in your jetting kit because it's only a half a clip leaner. You just swap needles with the clip in the same position. This one will be a half a clip leaner, so it's perfect for that. So what I'm going to say is this Pilot at 52 and the stock needle and stock position is going to be good for winter months and normal air here in Florida. However, I can see in the summer when it gets really humid, and hot, I can totally see this needle right here. It's half clip leaner and the 50 Pilot doing the trick. But let me go ahead and get geared up, and we'll take her for a first preliminary ride, see how she does. By the way, one other mod that I did to it was I went to the BR9 ECMIX plug. Alright, Caleb also did a test ride on the bike. He owns a bone stock YZ250 2-stroke. What did you think about mine?
I mean, it has a lot more power to it, especially on corners when coming out of it. Just, you know, just a lot more pipier.
What do you mean by pipier?
Pipier to him is when it hits harder. Hits harder, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not pipier like it bogs and zaps, but just hits harder.
Yeah, it just hits harder, yeah.
Okay. How did it seem to rev out for you?
Revving out, I mean, it keeps on pulling when it revs out, so
compared to stock, it's about
it's faster. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. That's like
butt pucker factor, 0 to 10. Yeah, butt pucker factor.
Oh, for me it's like an 8. 8? Yeah.
What's a stock butt pucker factor? Yeah, what's
for
a stock butt pucker?
I'm used to that, so it's like a 2 for me.
Okay. So. All right. How about a 450?
450. When I rode it, honestly, with 450s, because I rode it for so long, it wasn't that bad. So it's probably about 2 as well.
So that has the biggest butt puck factor you've ridden so far?
Unknown to me, sir.
Shit. Okay. I have to edit that cuss word out now. Damn it. Get you on it. And I got my brother Critical Keith here. Yeah. What did you think about it?
It was good. Top end's a little more than mine.
Okay. On his bike, he has the head modified, same as mine, 40,000 switch band with near stock compression ratio of the 5 UP head and a shorty silencer, but he does have a stock pipe and stock reeds. But anyway,
it was good.
Okay,
it was good.
How was the bottom?
Your fuel's different than mine. A little more snap off the bottom. Mid-range on that one comes in earlier, a little more responsive in mid, and then that one starts to pull off after that. So
okay,
it was good.
Overall power, how was it?
Butt pucker factor?
Yeah.
6.
6. All right.
That's a 5.
That's a 5. Okay. And what's Caleb's? A stock one.
Butt pucker factor?
Yeah, his butt pucker factor.
Oh man, I don't know. I give it a 3.5.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. All right. So we'll talk a little bit about these mods that I've done here and what the differences I think that they bring along. The porting or port polishing of the exhaust port here, that just seems to bring the pipe more into play. You know, the pipe, as you know, you can change pipes to you know, some make more top end, some make more bottom end, some make more overall power, but the window to all that is actually your exhaust port. That's pretty much an extension. It's right in the middle of your pipe and your motor here, so that's pretty important. And when you polish it up, just kind of remove the casting flaws and stuff, you kind of bring more of that into play. So anytime I polish the exhaust port, it just seems like whatever the pipe does, it just does more of it. And then the V-Force 3 that I added, they don't have a V-Force 4 for the YZ250 out, so our only option is actually the V-Force 3. It comes with no reed stops. I'll let you know later on down the road, obviously, if that's an issue, if I chip reed pedals or anything. But so far, I haven't done a back-to-back comparison between this and the stock reed pedals back-to-back yet, but I will be doing that in another video. More or less a shootout between the stock reeds, and I'm going to add a voice and rad valve to it as well. So it's going to be a 3 reed cage comparison. But this is very similar. The feel that this has compared to how my motor felt before was very similar to the YZ125 when I added the V-Force 4. What it seems to do is it kind of makes it evens out your throttle response in all RPMs. Like typically stock reeds or stock bikes can have a little more hit at certain RPM ranges. Like let's say on the bottom or bottom mid or maybe mid, they'll have a spot where they hit a little harder than the other spots. And there's other throttle ranges where it has very little hit, like let's say at the very top or even at the very, very bottom. The V-Force 3 seems to take away the spot where it hits real hard, and it spreads that out to the spots where it doesn't hit real hard. It seems to make an even hit. No matter what RPM range you're in, you're gonna get the same response, and it's a good, clean, crisp response. I like that, especially if you're doing a little more than just play riding, you're taking your riding seriously, or you're just riding tracks or you're racing. It's important to have a bike that is more consistent throughout the RPM range. You kind of always know what type of hit you're going to get every time you crack that throttle. So I actually prefer that, and so I'm enjoying the V-Force reeds for that. They also seem to extend the top end revs of the bike and the over rev. It did on the 125, and I'm almost going to say it probably does a little more on this one, because as you've seen in my motor rebuild where I showed how the reed stops for the on the stock reed pedals were majorly partially blocking the boost port, where these do not, since they do not have reed stops on them. So that's what the V-Force reeds seem to do. They also they kind of changed the sound and the feel of the motor a little bit, and it seemed it's the same sound and feel of my 125 it did to this. It kind of gives it more of a zzz sound to it instead of eh. It's more of a zzz, and you know, that's coming from the motor sound. And I don't know, I like it. It definitely changes the way the bike feels, and evens out the throttle response, and it makes it where anywhere you crack the throttle, you're going to get the same hit, which is really nice. It kind of makes the bike feel a little more electric, so to say, and that's pretty good. And one thing about the V-Force is they don't really affect your jetting. Like the rad valve, great reed system, but it definitely affects your jetting. So if you're not real good at jetting, you're gonna have to learn how to jet if you run that. But if you run the V-Force, you can pretty much just bolt them on for the most part, and you're not gonna have to change the jetting. That's just how they are. And then of course I put the BR9 ECMIX plug in. ECMIX plug is an interesting plug. First off, it's shorter up here in the top, which is nice. It gives you a little more room to work with to get your cap on. But it's an interesting plug as far as how it changes your power. What I find interesting is on a stock or near stock bike, I tend to not be able to really tell a difference when I put that plug in, and my brother couldn't tell one either, not much of one at least. But I seem to notice a difference after the bike's had a good handful of mods to it. And the type of difference it makes, it seems to smoothen out the top end, give it a little more revs, but it seems to connect the mid-range to the top end better. What I mean by that is when you accelerate, let's say some deep sand or some deep stuff that has that kind of it's power robbing stuff, the bike can tend to come up into the upper mid and kind of hang there for a little bit until the rear wheel kind of catches up, and then you get that last little bit of revs. When the rear wheel finally catches up and your bike finally catches up to the motor a little bit, then it comes to the last little bit. But when you put that plug in, it seems to connect them two spots together, so it doesn't hang right before it gets to the top. It will actually pull right all the way to the top, kind of ahead of itself, meaning it's giving you more power up in the upper mid area and top, which is nice. And the type of power it gives you is it's strikingly similar to the type of power the V-Force 3 gives you, which is really interesting. It's strange, but it's interesting. Like them two feel very similar. So when you run the V-Force reads with the MIX plug, they kind of work together and they kind of double stack on top of each other, much like the polishing the exhaust port works with the pipe. So this is a good combo. It's working good. I'm going to be revisiting the head here shortly and try some different profiles out, different compression ratios, different tapers and stuff, and see if I can come up with a little bit of a better head profile. But for right now, this is feeling really good and really strong. So let's go ahead and take her out for another ride. Alright, this is the BR9ECMIX, yeah. And this is the plug I have been using, which is a BR9EIX in my 252 stroke. I'm going to pop them in a 125 head here because it's shallower, so you'll be able to see it better when I'm talking about. And this right here, the BR9EIX, is pretty much the same profile for the most part as the BR9EG, BR9EV, and BR9ES. You see how tall the electrode is? The center electrode right in the center, and the ground strap, and then it's flat right here on the outer edge. I'll go ahead now and put the BR9EIX in. I'm sorry, the BR9ECMIX. This is a BR9ECMIX, and you see how it's taped. The outer edge right here, first thing that's notable, is it's tapered, and the ground strap is lower, and the electrode in the center is lower. Now obviously the head goes on the bike like this, so lower would actually mean higher. So but keep that in mind. So I'll give you one more view of this. You see how deep it sits up in the dome? The ground strap, the electrode, and it has that concave outer housing of the plug. And then the BR9EX, it's flat right here, and look how much taller the ground strap is and the electrode, if you can see it in there. So that's really the only difference. You can kind of see it better from far away too, how I'm going to call it tall this whole center area is. And then here's the BR9 ECMIX, and far away you can see how much lower and deeper it sits up in there. I originally would have thought that having your electrode and the ground strap more in the center of the combustion chamber and not on the roof, so to say, would have been better for performance, but I'm finding that this actually performs better having it up, high. Obviously if it's on the bike like this, having all that stuff up high on the roof. The only thing I can think of is your combustion starts way up here and works its way down instead of starting in the center and working all directions. That's the only thing I can come up with, but it seems to rev out better and just overall feel a little cleaner. Now another thing to note about these two plugs that are pretty interesting if you buy one of these ECM IXs is notice how the bottom half of the plug, let me get them lined up here. The bottom half of the plug, if you line up the bottoms and make them equal, notice the overall plug is shorter. The threads are the same. This part right here from the mating surface, from the mating surface, should I say, down to the bottom, that's the same. Let me see, let me get them lined up here. Right, there you go. That's the same, but look at this. Look how much shorter the overall plug is. The top half, the part that sticks out up top, which is pretty cool because it gives you more room to get your spark plug cap on and stuff when you're changing the plug while the tank's still on the bike. So that's the difference with the plugs. And like I said, this it's going to be the same if you're running an EV, EG, or ES compared to this EIX, and then obviously this ECMIX. That thing's a winner. I like it. So here you go. And I'm back home and back in the shop. That's pretty much it for my full motor rebuild ride report. I mainly did this video for my subscribers and people that follow my channel and that were just curious of how this full rebuild went, as well as some of the modifications that I made during the rebuild. I appreciate every single one of you guys out there. And if you're into dirt bike repairs, modifications, getting suspension dialed in, and just general things like that, like to geek out on your dirt bikes, and you're not subscribed, please click subscribe. And definitely if you're into the YZ250 two-stroke or the YZ125, I do a lot of covering them two bikes. But anyway, I appreciate every single one of you guys out there, and catch you next time.